Welcome to the Beyond the Scope podcast presented by NDMD Productions and made possible by GetUp Productions, your one-stop shop for launching your podcast. Let GetUp do all the heavy lifting and give you the tools you need to turn your podcast dreams into a reality. Learn more at augustapodcast.com/NDMD. I'm your host, Andy, third-year medical student, and if you're familiar with the NDMD YouTube channel, you know we love sharing stories from students, residents, and attendings of different medical professions while giving you an inside look into their lives, not just as healthcare workers, but the incredible people they are as well. This podcast continues the mission of sharing incredible stories and experiences of students, physicians, and healthcare professionals, but this time it's all about the things all those years of medical training doesn't prepare you for. Things that are beyond the scope of our practice. So whether that's navigating starting a family as a med student or physician, learning how to invest as a student, the goal is to bring on incredible role models who can guide you through those puzzling questions. And with that being said, let's introduce today's guest. And today we have a very familiar guest if you've ever considered attending medical school over literally the past 5 or 6 years. If you're not familiar with the face, you'll 1000% be familiar with the voice that is so strongly associated with animations, clearly and concisely explaining different medical specialties, breaking down ways to improve your medical school or residency application, and evaluating how to best optimize your study strategies as a student. With over 1.4 million subscribers and 88 million views on the legendary main channel of Med School Insiders and a quickly budding personal channel of 192,000 subscribers, please welcome to the Beyond the Scope podcast a legend of the pre-med and med YouTube community, Dr. Kevin Jubbal. How are you?
Wow, what an intro. That makes me sound so much more legit than I am. Thanks, man. That was great. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, I know you're on the other side of the country, and I thank you. I'm honored. I love making these intros because every single one of my guests I'm very proud to have on, and you are no exception. So I got to beef you up.
Thanks, man. Yeah, you're good at it. You put us in a good light, which I appreciate.
Oh, as you deserve. And I mean, seriously, thank you so much for your time. I don't think in a million years I would be talking to the person behind all those little pre-med videos that, I watched in high school and college, which is insane. But, for some reason, a viewer or listener does not know who you are. Can you kind of formally introduce yourself, say where you went to undergrad and medical school, and then let's do a fun one because I know you got a third channel coming up. Your favorite car at the moment?
Ooh, okay. I like that last question. So, name's Kevin Jubbal. I went to UCLA for undergrad, majored in neuroscience. Then I went to UC San Diego for medical school. And then I went to Loma Linda for plastic surgery residency. That didn't last very long. I ended up quitting. So I'm no longer actually clinical. And as for my favorite car right now, I mean, the one that I'm most hyped about is the Lotus Emira, which is based on the Lotus Evora, but they've updated it. It still has that supercharged Toyota V6. It looks gorgeous. It's less than $100,000. It's just, hydraulic steering, double wishbone suspension, all four corners. I could nerd out about it for hours, but that's the one that I'm most excited about right now.
I can feel my eyes and ears being glazed over as well as so many other people as you kept going. But I mean, I forgot to mention you.
I guess this also kind of gives it away.
Oh, all the cars in the background? Yeah. I didn't mention the third budding channel with your car stuff, but
my third channel, Jubbal and cars. I just review cars. I go on the racetrack. I have a good time. It's about learning about the driving experience and driving enjoyment, but I know we're not focusing on that. We're focusing on the other two stuff, the medical focus stuff today.
Oh man, but it's good. It shows that you still keep up with your interests outside. That's perfectly fine. But obviously you've made a humongous name for yourself with one certain channel. So I know it's definitely buried deep in one of your videos probably, but I wanted to hear it from the man himself, because there's no greater source than the primary source. We're going to dive deep into the origins of Med School Insiders, because there, I think, are very few who have managed to build up such an incredible resource and I use that word very intentionally, resource and platform as you have while you were still in medical school at that time, right?
Yeah, I was in my last year. That's right.
Yeah. So let's start from the very beginning. How long has it been since you started Med School Insiders?
October 2016. So was that 5.5 years?
5.5
Um,
years?
yeah, I think so.
Ooh.
Or is that right? Okay, I can't math. I think that's 5.5 years. May right now. So, um, you want to know why I started it, or
Oh, that's the next question. So what was your original inspiration for making the kind of content on Med School Insiders?
essentially it came down to at by the end of med school, you've done pre-med, you've done your clinical rotations, you've done your preclinical, and you learn a lot about studying how to be more productive, how to be more efficient, etc. And I felt like if I knew those things back when I was a pre-med, oh my God, my life would have been so much easier. I would have saved so much time. I would have been hitting the gym more often. I would have just been happier, less stressed. And the whole impetus was how can I give that advantage to people earlier on in training? So, like my first ever video was, I think it was called Pre-Med Study Strategies: What I Wish I Knew in College, and that just kind of summarized everything I learned over those years in terms of studying in one single video.
What was the first video for you that like completely spiked and blew up?
How to wake up early and not be miserable. That yeah, so it's funny. That one actually went like viral. We got we got like 1 million views in a week or something on that video, and this was probably spring of the next year. So it was less than 5 months after starting my channel, just a couple months in, and we went from like 16,000 subscribers to 60,000 in a couple days, and it was
A couple
essentially
days?
in a couple days. Yeah, it was me boiling down everything that I had learned about optimization, because most of us don't really think about sleep optimization that much. But then during clinicals, when you're doing your nights, as an example, when it's really
Hmm.
bright outside and whatever, then you realize how important sleep is. And even not during nights, when you're just on surgery and you're sleeping 3 4 hours a night, um, I really dialed things in. So I essentially again boiled all that stuff down into a single video.
I'm still like trying to digest that you got 1 million views in a week, and that's pre YouTube Shorts because I know a lot of people are taking advantage of the short form content right now, and they're just
Don't quote me on
spiking.
that though. I might be. I mean, the video now has like 5 million views or something, but I remember it was a lot of views in a short period of time that the video hit 1 million after. Um, it seemed like a week. Maybe I'm misremembering.
It's just insane, like hearing those kind of numbers from a long form video because, I mean, in my head, I only associate that with like Kendrick Lamar's new music video that just dropped. Like people who like have such a huge platform and people are expecting things. So, oh, hearing 1 million views in a week is just unreal. And maybe that's just the person in me that's had the experience of like just slowly seeing the view meter tick up and you're like, oh, this sucks.
Well, that's what it
So
that's what it is 99% of the time, right? And I think the algorithm is also always changing and is so misunderstood. Um, so I would say 99% of my videos are just like that, slow and steady.
yeah. Actually that's a good segue into the next question. Uh what was the hardest part about building the channel?
So when I started residency, I could no longer animate my own videos, and and then hiring someone else to do it was a huge help. But then I feel like the growth process and delegating and finding people to help me was the sticking point that I had. And then eventually we found an awesome team, and now our animation style is way better. If you look at our first video versus the videos now, I think that the production quality is a lot better. It's a lot more professional. The audio sounds better because back then I was using my iPhone. I didn't have a mic, and I've learned a lot about. There's so many things that you don't even think about that go into a channel, but like managing people is a big part of growing a team, as an example.
What do you mean by that? Like the team around your videos?
Yeah, so the team has expanded, and finding the right editor or animator, and how do you work best with them? How do you keep them motivated? How do you keep them happy? How do you keep the production quality high and try to minimize errors and keep things as efficient as possible so there's not unnecessary back and forths? There's all these little things that you can tweak that is just so complex compared to just working on your own systems. So that's been a very rewarding learning experience, actually.
Gotcha. And when did you say like you realize that okay, I'm really onto something, I need help? Like where was that point?
Um, I think leading up to residency, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to spend as much time because making those videos, um, I guess like researching and writing the scripts for me wasn't as time intensive, but then editing it, I didn't enjoy the editing as much from the beginning. I felt like the editing was something I had to do, but I felt that the research, the writing, and compiling more complex things into a shorter video was something that I enjoyed doing more. So pretty early on, I figured that I'm going to need to outsource this.
Okay. And then just a question out of curiosity, what was the point where you were like, "Oh man, this is this is a thing. This is actually blowing up. I should start investing more time and energy into it."
With that why how to wake up early and not be miserable video, because I was actually in Cape Town, South Africa, and like on vacation, and I remember two things happened. So actually, right before the video went viral, can I cuss on this podcast? Is that okay? Because
Yeah, you can as long as you don't. I'd say as long as
someone
you don't drop like a mega f bomb.
someone called me a dickhead, and it was just like they're just a comment, just a dickhead, and and I remember running to the kitchen and being like, to my girlfriend at the time, "Oh my God, look, someone called me a dickhead," and then she's like, "Why are you excited? What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "No, don't you get it? Like now I'm officially a YouTuber because I got haters. Like until you have haters, you're not a YouTuber." So that happened at around 16,000 subscribers because everyone before that was like so nice and supportive and I still remember that comment. It really made me feel like a proper YouTuber. And then once the video went viral and seeing like the AdSense, I was like, oh wow, I can really start investing in my business more. Because I think in that month we pulled in like $5,000 just in AdSense alone, and I was like, okay, I need to take this a little bit more seriously and start investing. Because also I think because of my upbringing and my background, I felt so hesitant to put money into something when I was like, hey, I need to save the money and make sure that I have it in case I'm like short on cash or whatever. So the only investment I made to that point, right, was literally buying a $16 Amazon Basics tripod. And I used a selfie stick on the top of it to then get my iPhone over a piece of paper to draw. And then it took me a couple months to then get the video editing software, which was $200 for a year. But I was like, oh my God, $200 is a lot of money. And that's kind of like actually a common theme that the first couple of years of my business, I feel like my level of investment wasn't as high as it should have been. Like even buying a new laptop, I was like, oh, this laptop is like, it's mostly good. The battery life kind of sucks and it's a bit slow, but hey, it's like good enough. And until I was talking to a friend and they're like, dude, this is your living. Like you're investing in your ability to get work done faster and et cetera. Like get your new laptop, sell your old one. So that was when that video went viral, that was kind of an inflection point, but not that much because I was still a little bit too stingy, I think, in terms of reinvesting in the business.
Gotcha. I'm thinking about the first hater comment 'cause I distinctly remember mine too. I think some of my friends saw it before I did, and they still have a screenshot. And I think they're planning on like, I think they're planning on printing it out and framing it
Yeah.
for me. And it wasn't even like, it wasn't even anything bad. It was like almost something as simple as like, you suck or something. But it does kind of hit and you're like, dang, people are really watching this, huh?
Yeah.
Um,
There's a real
it's
person on the other side.
exactly. Um, ooh, kind of moving along. I'm taking a look at my show notes. This is, you kind of hinted at this earlier, that your animation style got better, and I always love hearing the stories of people starting out. Like, I don't know if you saw, I'm sitting here smiling when you said Amazon tripod, selfie stick, like iPhone on top, because I mean, I think back to some of my old videos, getting top down shots and like completely jerry rigging the mess out of it, like putting my like $500 DSLR on a tripod and like hanging it off my bed with like a counterweight of my old MCAT books on the other end.
I love it.
And it's like I don't think people understand those are the kind of sacrifices that sometimes you make when you're starting out, and you're just like you gotta get creative. That's the fun of starting channels and making
It is part of
videos.
the fun. It is part of the fun, and I think if it were easy and you were able to just like get all the equipment up front and whatever, it's not as sweet of an end result when you finally are able to then afford the nicer camera, or like there's a nicer story arc that happens when you start at that level and then you build it and you work and you reinvest. There's something really rewarding about that.
I definitely agree. And then I think reinvesting is a good word for the next question. Like, how would you say your content has changed on Med School Insiders as time has evolved? Because you mentioned like the videos from the very beginning are not the ones that are coming out now in terms of quality and even maybe content.
So I guess in terms of quality, we've now shifted to fully animated. The beginning was were me drawing on a piece of paper. Um, so on the production level, I think those changes are more obvious. In terms of the content focus, so there's different strategies when it comes to building a YouTube channel, and I think it makes sense that most YouTubers are focused on building a YouTube channel and monetizing that and getting more subscribers, getting more view count, etc. Because of the nature of Med School Insiders, because we do have a separate website, it's a full-on business, it's not just a YouTube channel, right?
Mhm.
We actually have a more intentional strategy now, whereas at the beginning, the first, I don't know, 6 months, year and a half, whatever it was, we were very much focused on trying to build the channel. We maybe had a video here and there about, hey, go check out our website, blah blah blah. But now we will oftentimes intentionally release a video that we know is going to tank, but it's very niche. It's going to help a lot of students, and then we can also tie it into our business as well.
Hmm. And that just comes with time and growing. And I even often have to remember myself like medschoolinsiders.com exists and is a fantastic resource for everyone out there. And I'm not saying that just because Kevin's like on the podcast. Like I've actually been there.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, we put a lot of time into the blog as well because there's a lot of blog content that is not appropriate for YouTube, as an example.
Mhm.
Or we made a video on Casper, which is a test for medical school, or to get into med school, I should say. And when we released that video, we're like, okay, this video's not going to do well. It's like 10 out of 10, but it's important stuff that pre-meds need to know about. So we're going to release it, and even though it's going to be a little hit on the channel, it's worth it overall.
Mhm. Because again, there's people behind the screen watching, and there's somebody out there that needs that video. So it's definitely worth. Um, ooh, okay. So we were talking about it kind of off camera before we started talking. Kind of how in the world I like balance all this as a student. I want to ask you that question because when Med School Insiders took off, you were still a student. How in the world did you manage and balance all that?
Well, I mean, it's easier to do that when you're in your fourth year and also after you submit your residency application. So the first half of fourth year is really challenging with you're traveling, doing aways, stuff like that. But by October, when I started the channel, my aways were done. The latter half of fourth year is just cruising. The harder part was during residency because the residency, especially in a surgical residency, you generally are working pretty extreme hours and then trying to come home and then script and record audio and edit the audio and then send it to my guy to animate. That became challenging. And there was a period of a couple months where I don't think I even uploaded a video. I was just so overworked. So that was the one time when I kind of lost my 1 video per week cadence.
Yeah. I mean, it's important to kind of make that decision of giving yourself a break. And the people that are going to be there for you, people that understand your content and also your position as, a physician in training at that time, like they'll be there when you come back.
Yeah, yeah. Sustainability is the name of the game.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm learning that every single day too, as I learn to figure out this whole like YouTube thingy. Um, oh, okay. So also with residency, I'm asking this a lot for me too. How did your channel and everything uh, affect your residency application? Because, or did you already submit ERAS before the channel
I'd
started?
already submitted, but then the question for me became like, okay, do I even talk about it or not? So
Mm.
if I guess the OG viewers will remember that I went by Jay, I didn't even go by Kevin because I wanted to be anonymous. Because back then, you have to remember, it was literally like Doc Osere and the Strive to Fit were the only other
Oh,
two medical
yeah.
YouTube channels, and then I joined as well. Um, so this was very like 2016 versus 2022 is very different in terms of how this is now more accepted. But back then I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna really mention this, talk about this, especially in surgery, because in surgery I think it's more old school in certain ways where they expect you to have this as your singular focus. So if I'm like, yeah, I do YouTube on the side, I'm like, look, we've been growing, and they'd be like, is this guy not serious about surgery? Like, what the hell is YouTube? Why is he wasting his time on YouTube? What is this thing?
Yeah. That's true. So did you ever mention it, or like when was the time when you felt like comfortable talking about it with, in a professional setting?
Even in my residency program, I didn't talk about it until someone found my channel. Like, yo, is this you? And and then they started like spreading it around to the other attendings and the residents. And initially, I was embarrassed because I didn't want it to be again perceived in a negative light that, oh, this guy
Yeah.
isn't super serious about surgery and look at him doing these other things. Which I mean, it's kind of ironic because in hindsight, I left surgery, but um, I don't think I felt as comfortable with it when I was a trainee. And I think now a lot of the culture has shifted where if I was in it again, I would feel much more comfortable today in 2022 because it's not just me and two other people doing this. This is like there's so many YouTubers who are med students or residents or attendings now.
Mhm. So would you recommend, students and residents actually put this kind of stuff on their CV? And I'm saying that partially for myself, but there's also a lot of people that are building social media platforms, whether that be on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whether it be a blog website. Like there are things that to them and even for me, as medical students, you have that super type A personality where it's like you want to be the best in everything that you do. And sometimes we feel afraid of talking about it unless it's like, okay, unless I have 100,000 subscribers or I have 1,000 or so, like I'm not going to talk about it at all. Would you still advise people to talk about that passion and really show that that's a part of you?
I think in most cases, yes. It's going to depend on how you spin it. So if you have like you for instance, you have a professional platform, you're not like doing things that are questionable or put you in a bad light. You are focusing on education. If you're speaking in a way where it's like I am passionate about educating future physicians and here's how I'm doing it, that's awesome, right? If you have a different podcast where you get drunk with a buddy and you guys are talking about like fringe things, then probably not. But so that's decision number one is the type of content you're doing, and then decision number two is the type of specialty you're applying into. So something like neurosurgery, as an example, is probably going to be a little bit less understanding of that and a little bit less supportive because you have more of that old school kind of vibe and thought process versus something like family medicine might be like, oh, that's awesome, like cool, we want to educate our patients, great, and like you have your videos on diabetes, oh cool, this is great. So there's kind of two levels there to consider.
That's interesting, particularly neurosurgery. And I'm saying that because a neurosurgeon is a close peer of mine, and he is now into the YouTube game. Um, and he's like 24-ish thousand subscribers, and he absolutely loves it. My friend Josh at Jefferson, he's building a whole media page around surgery, and then like small scale surgical techniques where he's really taking high production stuff and then merging it into how people practice sutures and like educating even a medical student on how to do these techniques, but making it look absolutely beautiful and elegant.
So that's the type of
And
content where I feel like that would be very fitting for even a surgical program because, oh, you care so much about this stuff and like you're helping
yeah,
others, and that seems to be fitting, right? If I was a fourth year med student applying into neurosurgery and I was like, yo, check out my travel vlogs, probably not.
fair enough. I was just curious about your opinion on that. You mentioned times are changing, and we both know a lot of creators on the platform. Uh, a lot of them are either residents or students like me, and it's always kind of like it's a touchy topic to figure out how much do I talk about this in a residency
Yeah,
application, or
because
how
what you
much
have
will it even help.
true, and you have to remember too that the people who are reviewing a residency application, they're probably not, they probably don't view social media the same way that you do. I mean, they're in a totally different part of their life. They grew up at a different time, and some of them are coming around for sure, but some of them aren't. So I mean, it's changing every year, and more people are getting on board. But it's, I don't know. I'm also very risk averse. So to me, if there's a possibility of something hurting my application, a larger risk of hurting my application, and maybe only a smaller chance of it helping, then I'm going to avoid talking about it.
Mm. It's true. Yeah, just food for thought for me, and then anybody watching or listening that's trying to build their own social media platform. I think those two rules are really really good. Just like the first one being, what's your content like, and then the second, who are you trying to appeal to?
And you could also make the argument that, hey, if this is like such an important part of my life and I want to be creating content, I'm going to be open about it. And I understand that out of the 50 programs I apply to, maybe X percentage of them are going to be turned off by that. But that's fine because I want to find the program that is right for me. That's easier to do in certain specialties. When you're applying into, I think based on the most recent data set, plastic surgery is number one, dermatology is number two, ortho's number three. So if like you're applying to those kinds of programs in terms of competitiveness from NRMP, then it's more of like you gotta just take what you get. You can't really be as choosy. So then your risk assessment might change. So a lot of these things require more nuanced decision making, and I'm smiling because I feel like I overuse the word nuance from time to time, but it is really like a very individually based decision.
Yeah, I agree, and yeah, I'm just saying that out of personal curiosity, and then also some people at my med school come to me. There's a guy who was actually on my podcast who recently mashed into surgery, who is building short form content on Instagram and TikTok, and he was like coming to me going, do I even talk about this? Do I even put this on my CV at all? I was like, it's something you love to do, and as long as you take it seriously, and people are only going to take it as seriously as you take it. If you treat it as a joke, then like other people will treat it as a joke. And so you have to come in holding your head high, having that confidence in your product and the work that you do, because it is work, it's art, and if you're not proud of that, you probably shouldn't have put it out there in the first place.
That is you make a compelling point. You make a compelling point. By the way, I want to correct myself because I feel like someone, since this is being recorded, I think number three is actually neurosurgery, not ortho, in terms of competitiveness. That's not the main point we're making, but we are making an updated specialty competitiveness video. So I just want to be accurate there.
Behind the scenes, you pulled out like the most up to date information. I was like, whoa, okay. You said you do your own research, and you weren't lying.
Yeah, we take this stuff very seriously. We want to give the most accurate, comprehensive information out there. Yeah, it was actually I love when people also call us out and help us improve, because the reason I know this stuff and the reason we're making a new one is because I made a video on my personal channel about why every specialty seems competitive. Like everyone says, hey, every specialty is competitive, and oh my God, why is that? So we dive through and we go through the data, and I essentially compiled data looking at like 2014 to 2020. It was multiple years of NRMP data, and then some guy in the description like just really went at it saying, hey, or in the comments saying, this is like, this is kind of inaccurate. This specialty, which you ranked higher, is like a lot less now. and using such an expanded data set so many years is probably not accurate because things are changing year to year. And I was like, you know what? That's actually a really good point. So then we went back, we've actually played with the data. Once the new 2022 NRMP data comes out, we'll be releasing an updated video, breaking it all down and having a more final, comprehensive, updated list.
Oh man, those are all things that like nobody sees when they click on that little like 8 to 12 minute video.
Yeah, it's a whole process,
word.
right? And it's actually a
Yeah.
community too. The really cool thing is when people reach out, they give you ideas or they help you improve. And um, this is a little bit of a side tangent, but for any of the people that want to do YouTube out there, I think the two main things, because a lot of people will ask, hey, how do I grow a channel long term? It comes down to two things. Number one is consistency. So you need to be consistent. You can't just make videos this month and be like, I'm going to take 2 months off. So consistency. And number two is trying to improve. And I think the trying to improve part, a big part of that is listening to feedback. So you will get haters on YouTube. And if you just reject what they're saying because, oh, they're a hater and they're being so disrespectful, then you're going to lose out on a lot of valuable feedback. If you can instead parse through the abrasive way in which they're providing this feedback, there's probably some truth, some kernel of truth to their feedback, even if you don't agree with the delivery. And if you can extract that, now you're getting a lot more value from their haterness, and you can actually use that to improve your channel.
I agree. The comment section is a whirlwind, a roller coaster, I do say. It can go from the incredibly encouraging to the downright, wow, you really have too much time on your hands, don't you? But there's always something that you can learn when you just listen. And I think that extends beyond comment sections. Wow, I'm getting deep now. It's a late recording session on this end, so it's getting to late night with NDMD. But like really, it's always fun having these conversations because like as I grow and figure things out, I don't know everything. You're still growing and evolving as well. But from someone who has been doing this for way longer than I have, it's always beneficial to listen to advice.
Yeah, and it's also just great talking to other creators because you are doing things differently than I'm doing it, and I have things to learn from you. And I mean, what you've done is very impressive. And the is it 72 questions? 71? 73 questions, like awesome series that you're doing, right? That it just crushes. Such a cool concept.
God, I'm blushing over here. You said you have things to learn from me. I feel not worthy
Of course.
for that. I still feel like a student just figuring things out. So
That's how I feel
it's
too,
really
man.
humbling.
It never changes.
It never ends. We're all just out here figuring things out.
Yeah, on the Dunning-Kruger curve, like that bottom dip, just like it seems to last forever. I'm like, when am I gonna feel like I'm an expert and like I have the mastery? I feel like I'm constantly trying to get out of that phase.
Yeah. I mean, if there wasn't anything more to learn, it wouldn't be as exciting to
True
do.
that.
Moving right along, since kind of the whole residency application thing was low-key a tangent. So what are some of the opportunities that were opened up to you as a result of you building up Med School Insiders?
Most obviously is my career. So, I mean, the obvious, so like I left residency and focused on primarily Med School Insiders and MEM, and at the time also Blue Link, which is a biomedical incubator. So, I mean, different career opportunities, like the most obvious of which is how I primarily spent my time. But then beyond that, man, I have met so many cool people through YouTube. Like the fact that we're connecting, and the next time you come to Vegas, we're gonna hang out and whatever. Meeting Sean Anderson, who's here in Vegas. When I went to the Philippines, I met up with Doc Ora, who's a big YouTuber there, and she and her boyfriend gave us like this full day tour of Manila, and I was like, thank you YouTube for like connecting us. This is so cool. So connecting with great people, I think, is an underappreciated upside to doing YouTube, as well as having more opportunities coming inbound. So it's nice where I guess when you get really big, and I'm not really big, right? But if you're like Tim Ferriss or something, then you probably have maybe too many inbounds such that it's overwhelming. But at my level, where I'm a lot smaller than that, it's like, cool, I have enough inbounds and I'm meeting cool people, and people want to schedule calls and talk about, hey, should I also leave residency for this business? And here's my business. Or hey, do you want to collaborate on this thing? Those kind of inbound leads and meeting cool people are just exciting, man. And I didn't focus on that as a possible upside. I focused more on just, I don't know, the more obvious things with YouTube. Um, and that's something that's definitely underappreciated.
I agree, and I'm saying that just like going through the files of memories I have from the cities I've been able to check out, people I've been able to meet because of the 73 question interview series, and just YouTube in general. And like, I mean, it's a nice little community of friends, really. No one understands how crazy you are than another crazy person.
There you go. Well said.
I mean, I'm thinking back. I met up with other med student YouTuber Rachel Southard, although she makes somewhat drastically different content than I do. But it was just one of those things where we're able to connect because who else is crazy enough to walk through med school with a camera in their hand than someone else? And it was nice to have that understanding, and it's something that I never expected to have when I started this whole thing.
Yeah, it's a tight knit community for sure.
Um, and then, kind of getting near the end, you mentioned that you left plastic surgery residency. Now you're managing two very large channels. I say very large, including your like personal channel, even though like comparatively, it's not another million view channel or a million subscriber channel. But I mean, you're now a full time creator and businessman. So, what does an average day look like for you? I'm curious.
Oh, funny you asked that because we just released Day in the Life of a Plastic Surgery Residency Dropout on my channel. Um, my days these days aren't that exciting in terms of a lot of it is very routine. So I'll wake up, I'll hit the gym, I'll come back, and then just work for most of the day. And that includes creating content, handling the business stuff, creating content. I would like to, over time, spend more time creating content as a larger, piece of the pie in my day, because I think creating content is so fun and so rewarding. And right now, because we're building these other businesses too, most of my time is actually focused on building the businesses. And as we're trying to grow and delegate and whatever, eventually I'll be spending less time there and more time creating content, which I think is the really fun stuff. Um, and yeah, like I'm pretty. I mean, I travel often, but I'm like traveling and usually doing work. I sleep early before midnight because I'm an old man. Like my life is pretty. I don't know. It's pretty PG for the most part.
You're not that old.
I'm old on the inside, so I got the soul of an 80-year-old man. I'm stuck in the body of a 31-year-old. I have so in my bedroom, I was just like, redesigned it and stuff, and I have a reading nook. I have like a specific chair with a lamp so that at night before I sleep, I go sit in my little reading nook. I'll read some books, and it's like that old man energy. I just kind of lean into it.
Yeah, that's great. You've accepted it. You've come to peace with it.
Come to peace with it. I drink tea often. I'm always drinking tea. I balance it
Oh,
out though. So then I try to get my adrenaline going to the racetrack, doing car stuff, driving like a hooligan from time to time.
I saw your tea. Another tangent. I'm a big coffee guy, and I saw your whole tea layout. So when I come to Vegas, I'm gonna challenge you, coffee versus tea.
Oh, dude, I'm so down.
Right.
We'll have all the tea, all the coffee. I tried coffee in med school, but then the issue was because I have some gut stuff. I just like had a lot of GI symptoms. I was like, you know what, coffee just not for me. So tea, no problem.
That's fair. Very, very much old man activity. Anyways, so at the end of the day, I know you've been a great case study of success for those thinking of making that hard decision of leaving a residency program, or leaving medicine in general to manage a business full time. And of course, because you've dedicated so many hours, so much time, you're never going to be completely disconnected from the medical field. I want to know, do you ever miss the OR or the clinical environment?
Yeah, I do. I do miss the OR from time to time. But I sometimes reflect on this, and I'll miss it every now and then, but I've never regretted the decision, even for like a split second. And I think the reason is there are two things I found in life that got me really reliably into a flow state. And when you're working, that flow state is so addicting. And one of those things is like driving my car at the limit, which is why I started doing autocross back as a med student, which is very affordable. And then now that I can afford to do track days, I do track days, which are a little bit more intense, like ups the ante, ups the danger, ups the speed and whatnot, and the cost. Um, so yeah, one way to get into flow was driving the car at the limit in a safe environment. Don't do this on the streets, kids. And then number two was actually operating. And I remember like when I was a med student, I was so obsessive about practicing and perfecting suturing technique. And just whenever they would like give me, like my chance to shine, I would love it. I'd be like, this is so good. This is so fun. I could do this forever. And then I remember in residency, because I'd just been obsessive about it for so long, it got to the point where it was a little bit routine. This is during my intern year, right? I was like, okay, suturing's cool. All right, like not bad, not bad. And then I remember in November of my intern year, my six was doing a bleph, and then he did the incision, and I was helping him close. First time I was wearing my surgical loops. So then part of it is like I was getting used to using loops for the first time. And it was also like 8-0 suture. It was super thin, super hard to see,
Oof.
super
Yeah.
delicate skin because the eyelid skin is the thinnest skin in your body. And I remember I got that rush again. I was like, oh my God, the flow state. Oh, I could do this forever. This is so much fun. And then it hit me because I was like, regular suturing was magical until it became routine. This bluff right now is magical. When is it going to become routine? Okay, the next I'll do microsurgery and then I'll up the ante and that'll give me that rush. But then will that become routine too? And that was one scary thing about the OR. So I missed it in that I love that rush, that excitement. But in the back of my head, I was like, well, is it not going to be as exciting when I'm really well trained and good at this stuff and it's just routine? It doesn't feel like a challenge. I won't get into flow as much. And the crazy thing is, I was talking to a plastic surgeon literally Monday night. Yeah, so 2 nights ago from today. And it's actually a dual physician household, orthopedic surgeon, plastic surgeon, husband and wife.
Ooh.
And yeah, talk about power couple, right? And
Yeah.
they've been attendings now for just a couple of years. And they told me, like, without me prompting this story, right? They told me the same thing. And they're like, yeah, you just got to keep upping the ante. And sometimes I'll purposely do like more challenging cases and like kind of put more, take on something that's more challenging intentionally just because I want that rush. And even if it doesn't fit the lifestyle as well or whatever, I get that rush, that adrenaline, that feel good kind of fix. And, and I was like, oh my God, you're the first attending surgeon to tell me that blatantly, like just super explicitly, straightforward. And I thought that I was just a weird one for feeling that way. And we were discussing how some people are like that, some people aren't. We don't know what the percentage is, but that was a very long-winded way of saying that yes, I do sometimes miss the OR, but then because of that understanding I have, that could be part of the reason why I've never regretted my decision, as well as like some other parts as to why I left. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, things that we don't really think about, right? We don't really consider these
Yeah.
factors because I remember the first time I was in the OR as a third year, I was like, oh my God, coolest place in the whole medical field by far. This is dope. I can't do anything else. I called my mom as soon as I left. Mom, I know what I'm doing for the rest of my life. Like I'm going to become a surgeon. And she was excited for me. And then it's kind of interesting how things can lose their magic. Not to say that it's not still cool, but what was maybe a 10 out of 10 is now like a 7 out of 10.
Mm, man, I'm I'm gonna be chewing on that for a little bit. It's an interesting perspective here, hearing it from people that have been there, done that, and then also hearing it from other surgeons.
Yeah,
Um,
and I thought I was just a weird one. I was like, I'm just weird, but most people don't feel that way. But then both of these attending surgeons saying the same thing, I was like, oh man, this is this is more widespread than I think anyone realizes.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, I don't think that's isolated to just surgery. I think that's just like a lot of medicine as a whole. And also, it's a product of what kind of personalities are attracted to the medical field. Like I said earlier, just the super type A, like I want to be the best of the best as I can. I want to push myself to those limits. And then there's always that like, what happens when I get to that limit? Like, is there another one? Or will that next one also become just like another jaded thing? It's an interesting thought to have.
But what I'm curious about is how many people. So the rate at which you get to that point is going to be different for every person, right?
Mhm.
Um, how many people never get to that point at all, where they still find the magic in maybe different things? Maybe now suturing and whatever is routine, but now they find the magic in something else about surgery or something else about patient interaction. And I wonder how much of that is just true for everyone versus how much of that is personality based and personality driven.
Hey, if you're the PI, I'll be first author. I'll grab Sean. He'll be second author. I'll see you at the IRB office. And actually, that's a good transition. Speaking of Sean, obviously you know him very, very well. I've interacted with him because he's in technically the same med school class as me. He like blew up way before my channel did. He's doing amazing things over there. And I think this is a really big question that I'm wondering. What do you believe your legacy to be? Because I know you and Sean, it's been really, really cool to see you guys kind of like be for him to like be mentored by you, not just as a future physician, but as a content creator. And that's a combo that, not many people can speak to. You know what I mean?
I don't know how much mentoring I've done for Sean. I feel like
How much corrupting have you done to him?
I'm corrupting him. We're just trolling each other, having silly times. I do know that he is interested in plastics, so I have talked to him a bit about that. But you're asking what I feel my legacy to be?
Yeah.
I think that this human interest of legacy I feel kind of torn about it because I think it is a very natural human tendency for us to want to have a legacy, have an impact, etc. And to me, I feel like I have been in a fortunate position to have a voice on YouTube where I can help pre-meds and med students, because part of the reason I also started that channel was that I saw a lot of pain and frustration amongst peers, colleagues, lower classmen, etc. And I wanted to do my part in helping with that. And I received comments or emails or DMs or whatever, and I feel like, okay, I'm making a change here and I'm heading in the right direction. I'm happy about that. But then the other side is, well, like, it's kind of like nihilistic, but should I even be focused on a legacy? Is that like a good motivation to have? Is that going to play, is that a bad incentive to guide my behaviors? Because there's probably a point where focusing too much on legacy is harmful, right? Do I want to focus so much on legacy that I have a building named after me, the Jubbal library or whatever, because I need to have something permanent that outlives me? Like, no, I don't think that's going to be healthy. So I'd like to have a positive impact on medical trainees. I'd like to help them get through the process, because the system is broken, and two things need to happen. Number one is the system needs to be improved, but waiting for that to happen, I mean, good luck. That's not going to happen anytime soon. We're working towards that, hopefully, but the rate of progress is very slow. The other side of it is taking personal responsibility. Now, responsibility is not the same as fault, and I think a lot of people conflate the two. But responsibility allows you to now take control and ownership of suboptimal circumstances, which may not be your fault. So I focus a lot on that, taking responsibility with my channel, with my content. And if I can help people be more efficient, be more resilient, burn out less, etc., then I'll be happy with that.
That's a very, very good answer. Almost theoretical answer. You went a little bit deeper than I expected. But all right, leads to my last question before we wrap up. What is the one advice that you would give to a medical student or resident right now who is interested in starting up a YouTube channel or just like building content that is looking to inspire others?
I'm going to say three things. So the first two I've already said, which is be consistent and try to improve, be open to feedback, and take that to heart, take it seriously. But then the third one is enjoy the process, man. Like, we often think that, oh, when I get X number of subscribers or Y number of dollars, or I complete my training, or I get my degree or whatever, then I will be happy. Then I will be successful. Then I will have, quote, made it. But if you focus on that, you're going to forever be unhappy, right? So if you focus on a way of enjoying that process, enjoying the struggle, enjoying the grind, like there's a certain like intangible satisfaction that can be derived from pushing yourself, from working hard, from exploring your boundaries, your limits. And if you grow to love that, then the whole process becomes a lot less painful. And then you're also much more likely to just push yourself harder, keep doing what you're doing, be more consistent, etc., and then actually be successful as a result. So it's like one of these self-fulfilling prophecies, but enjoy the process, man. It's a long road. Don't get impatient. You got to keep cranking it out, but experiment, explore, have fun. Don't take it too seriously. Like for my 3 YouTube channels, right? Med School Insiders is all business, and that comes across with the channel's growth and whatever. Kevin Jubbal, MD, is like, it was my experiment. So if you actually look at it from a YouTube growth perspective, I did a lot of things wrong. I did not focus on a single niche. I'm all over the place. I have videos about me with my cars. I have videos on whatever. Like, I was all over the place. I said, this is my creative expression. I'm just going to have fun with it. Like, fun is the number one priority, not YouTube growth. And then my 3rd channel now is like, you know what? I just have to make time for it because I've wanted to make videos on how to drive stick shift or, what I'm learning at the racetrack or whatever. And if I keep pushing it off, I'm never going to get it done. So you just kind of got to make time for it. And anyways, that was a bit of a rambly answer. I feel like a lot of my answers were rambly. I apologize. But there's my advice for budding YouTube medical creators.
That was awesome. And I don't mind the ramble because I know I ramble too. But really, Kevin, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast, man.
Thanks for having me, man. This was a lot of fun. We should do it again sometime.
Of course. See you in Vegas. Thank you so much for watching or listening to the Beyond the Scope podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's guest, and to make sure that you don't miss a single episode, make sure that you follow Beyond the Scope on all streaming platforms, as well as if you want to see the full video cut, subscribe to my YouTube channel, NDMD. As always, subscribe, like, follow, comment, all that good stuff, and we'll see you in the next one.